Discover 12 sinister and cursed locations in California that will haunt your dreams forever. Emily had always loved the idea of a fresh start, but nothing prepared her for the chilling pulse of the house that now loomed over her family. Tucked away in a seemingly peaceful Los Angeles suburb stood the quaint, peeling mansion, its walls drenched in the eerie legacy of its former owner, a legendary horror filmmaker. With 2 young kids in tow, she was ready to transform the haunted whispers of the past into a cozy home, until the shadows grew long at dusk and their laughter echoed hollowly, swallowed by the waiting darkness. The haunting began subtly. One evening, as Emily tapped away at her laptop in the living room, the lights flickered, casting sinister patterns on the walls. The chill in the air deepened, igniting a creeping dread down Emily's spine. She glanced at her children, curled up in a blanket fort, and saw their wide eyes fixed on the corner of the room, as if anticipating something unspeakable to emerge. They could sense what she couldn't, a malevolence lurking just beyond the threshold of understanding. As the echoes of joy turned into whispers that lingered in the hallways, Emily pressed on with her freelance work, desperately trying to ignore the unease that suffocated her sanity. She ventured deeper into her home's history, uncovering unsettling rumors of the filmmaker's obsession with cursed locations scattered throughout California. In her research, she stumbled upon troubling tales: a beloved teacher who vanished, a strict officer who'd lost his voice, a handyman cloaked in shadows that seemed to consume his very essence. Each figure tied to one of the 12 cursed sites, his unsettling legacy giving life to the darkness nesting in her new home. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The more she shared these findings with her neighbors, the more isolation she felt, their dismissive glances haunting her. "It's just an old house," they said with feigned pity, while behind closed doors her children grew wary, sneaking glances at shadows that shouldn't exist. The hushed silence enveloping them at night tightened around Emily like a tightening noose, squeezing her breath away. The final straw came one fateful night when the screams of her children cracked through the heavy air. Heart racing, Emily raced down the hallway to their room. The door creaked open, revealing a darkness so profound it swallowed her whole. Shadows writhed, and she felt something cold gripping her ankles. This was no longer the imaginary realm of childhood terrors. Something terrible lived in the walls, something that had awoken with the shift of her family's presence. In that moment, she knew she could no longer hide. Breathless and fueled by maternal instinct, Emily made a stand. As she opened the door to the basement, she strained against the pull of the darkness, ready to confront whatever awaited. What she unleashed, however, was a maelstrom of past horrors and buried secrets that rippled through the very fabric of her quiet suburb. And she realized with growing horror that exposing the truth might chain her family to a fate far darker than she could ever imagine. As shadows danced and whispered around her, only one question clung to her thoughts. Could she truly protect her children, or had she unleashed something more sinister than any filmmaker's imagination? The basement door creaked as Emily descended into an oppressive darkness. The air was thick, heavy with an ancient weight, and the steps felt like they were pulling her deeper into the earth. Her fingers trembled against the cold, rusted metal of the doorknob, as if it were alive, sending electric shocks through her wrist. She held her breath, the silence suffocating, her pulse thrumming in her ears like a distant drumbeat of fear. "Mom, please don't," whispered a voice, barely audible through the stillness. It was Lily, her eldest, standing at the top of the stairs, her small hands clasped together, eyes wide and terrified. "I have to see," Emily replied, trying to mask her own fear with a facade of courage. The echoes of her children's cries still haunted her. She had to find the source, to confront whatever cursed spirit had made its home in their lives. The walls of the basement were adorned with shadows that flickered as if alive. Old relics from the filmmaker's life lay scattered. Film reels, broken cameras, and faded photographs of scenes that had once captivated audiences, but now loomed as reminders of a darker legacy. Paranoia thickened in the air, drawing Emily's gaze to an old projector silhouetted against the far wall. Suddenly, the projector whirred to life. Abruptly, the darkness splintered with flickering images. Horrific scenes played out, grotesque figures dancing under a moonlit sky. Each frame seemed to capture a piece of the filmmaker's twisted imagination, echoes of fear and despair that clawed at her very essence. A man's laughter resonated through the basement, sinister and mocking. Emily turned, panic rising. "Get back, Lily!" she shouted, but the words were lost in the cacophony of swirling shadows. Just as she was about to retreat, a painterly figure emerged from the gloom, one of the specters she had read about, eyes sunken, body draped in darkness. Panic turned to terror as the figure pointed a gnarled finger toward her, words spilling from its lips like venom. "You should not have come here, trespasser." Emily stumbled back, heart racing. She felt cold tendrils snatch at her ankles, urging her closer to the phantom figure, blurring the line between reality and nightmare. "Mom!" Lily screamed again, but the echoes of her voice twisted and warped, filling the basement with a symphony of despair. Every inch of Emily's being screamed to flee, but she could feel the connection, the pull of something much bigger than herself. Was this where the missing teacher had vanished? Where the officer lost his spirit? Their stories converged here, anchored in the filmmaker's sinister legacy, threading through the darkness that now threatened to consume her. As remnants of laughter twisted into wails, Emily realized she hadn't just uncovered the house's secrets, she had ignited something malign. "Silence!" she demanded, the word escaping her lips with all the defiance she could muster. But the laughter grew louder, echoing off the walls. Just as she turned to grab her daughter, a flash of light illuminated the basement, revealing a wall of glass on the far side, inexplicably intact, yet pulsing with a life of its own. Behind it, a glimpse of children trapped in a ghostly schoolyard, the same frightened faces she had seen in her dreams. Desperation clawed in her throat as she shouted for Lily, "Run! We have to get out now!" But as they turned to escape, the shadows thickened, swallowing the light, and the laughter crescendoed into a deafening roar. The basement offered no refuge, only whispers of their impending doom, entwined with the broken dreams of the cursed filmmaker. Emily's breath hitched. What if this was the beginning of a larger nightmare? What if she was only a catalyst for something truly horrific? For as the shadows closed in, one truth became clear. To save her children, she had to unravel the mansion's ties to the cursed locations before they became trapped in this horror forever. And behind the pressing darkness, a new voice joined the cacophony, hissing softly, "You will not escape, not unless you face your fears." What hidden terror awaited them at dawn? The shadows shifted wildly, an ocean of darkness crashing against Emily and Lily as they stood paralyzed. The mocking laughter twisted into anguished cries that echoed through the basement, a disorienting symphony of despair. Instinctively, Emily yanked Lily toward the only option, toward the flickering light that whispered of hope. But the shadows recoiled around them like greedy hands, reaching, grasping, pulling them back into the abyss. "Mom!" Lily's voice pierced through the chaos, breaking Emily from her stupor. They had to keep moving. Heart thundering, Emily squeezed her daughter's hand tightly and lunged toward the light, but each step felt heavier, as if the basement itself were alive and resisting them. "Don't look back," she urged, adrenaline mingling with fear. The ambient gloom pulsed, alive with things she couldn't name, shadows masquerading as nightmares. Emily felt the chilling breath of the spectral figure creeping closer, whispering secrets from the dark corners of its decrepit past. As they neared the illuminated wall of glass, the cries of children grew louder, chillingly familiar, wrapping around Emily's heart like a vice. Images danced within the glass, a schoolyard that twisted and turned, displaying joyful children before warping into anguish. Faces she recognized flickered past, friends, teachers, lost souls twisted by unseen forces, crying for salvation. Was this all real? It had to be a trick, a malevolent fabrication conjured by the darkness. "Stay with me," Emily muttered, her voice strained. She felt panic rise in her chest as the specter's laughter morphed into guttural growls, threatening to drown out everything else. The glass wall vibrated with a pulse of light. Emily pressed her hands against it, the cold seeping through her skin, sending shivers coursing down her spine. She could feel it, a presence, something trapped, aching to escape. It beckoned her, urging her to understand, to delve deeper into the mansion's tragic lore. In that moment, she saw not just the horror, but glimpses of hope. Could she save them? But the shadows pressed closer, caressing her ankles as if they shared her purpose. Terror clawed at her throat. "We can't give in," she shouted, clenching her fists. Without warning, the basement shook, the floor trembling beneath their feet. The spectral figure surged closer, its elongated form leaning forward, its hollow eyes burning into Emily's soul. "You cannot leave," it hissed. "You are part of the story now." "Mom!" Lily clawed at her shirt, fear welling in her eyes. The darkness lashed out, a tangible creature fueled by dread, and Emily felt it trying to pull them apart. "Hold on!" Emily screamed, anchoring her daughter with her grip. They had to escape, to break this malevolent connection. But how? The glass wall vibrated violently, blinding light erupting from within. It was both an invitation and a warning, tenderness battling against the overwhelming dread. "Go! Go now!" Emily shouted as she felt the last remnants of courage surge within her. They barreled toward the glass, the barrier whispering promises of resolution. Just as they reached it, a hand shot through the shadows, gripping Emily's wrist with an impossible strength. She gasped, looking back into the void where the figure loomed, an amalgamation of anger and sorrow. "You cannot claim them!" it bellowed, before everything erupted in a cacophony of noise that threatened to explode their very eardrums. The world jolted around her as the glass shattered with a thunderous crack, scattering shards of light and darkness, revealing beyond it a void that yawned open like a mouth eager to swallow them whole. And then, with a rush, it pulled them forward. Emily felt the ground vanish beneath them, a stomach-lurching drop into an endless abyss. The shrieks of the children melded with the chaos, and an inescapable reality as one terrifying thought gripped her soul. What if the horror was just beginning? As they fell, a glimmer of that flickering light encapsulated their fear, the last remnant of hope. What twisted fate awaited them on the other side? Everything they had ever known. Everything they had fought to escape seemed to converge at that very moment, leaving them at the edge of darkness. Would they find the answers they so desperately sought, or become entangled in an even darker tale? The world around Emily and Lily blurred into a whirlpool of color and sound. As they tumbled headfirst into the abyss, time lost its grip on reality. Panic surged through Emily like ice water, freezing her veins as screams and shadows tangled in her mind, pure chaos. Suddenly, they crashed onto a cold, hard surface. Gasping, Emily blinked, the remnants of light swarming away as darkness clung to them. They were no longer in the basement. It felt like they were inside a cavern, the walls glistening with moisture, each drop echoing like a heartbeat. "Mom?" Lily's voice trembled. The girl's wide eyes searched the void, her small frame shaking slightly. "Stay close," Emily said, the authority in her voice faltering as she scanned their new surroundings. They were surrounded by silent figures, shadows trapped in dim silhouettes. Emily could barely make out faces, faces that twisted in pain and sorrow, mouths moving but no sound emerging. It was an audience of despair, an endless gallery of the lost. A chill crept under her skin, a primal instinct screaming at her to run. "Where are we?" Lily whispered, clutching her mother's leg. The darkness swirled like smoke, undulating as if it were alive, and Emily fought to remain steady. "I don't know, but we need to keep moving." She focused on a distant glow that pulsed weakly at the far end of the cavern. As they started forward, the vaporous shadows coiled around them, whispering secrets that curled into Emily's mind like tendrils of ivy. She recalled snippets of stories, tales of lost children, of souls that never found peace. Heart racing, she tightened her grip on Lily's hand. "It's okay, just keep your eyes on me." But the air thickened, each breath a struggle. As they progressed, the shadows began to shift now, unfurling like dark petals. Emily felt icy fingers brush against her hair, slithering around her neck. She tried to suppress a shiver. Ahead, the glow transformed into an ominous outline, a grotesque door, framed by jagged rocks. It beckoned them, promising knowledge and horrors intertwined. "Mom, I feel sick," Lily murmured, the words tumbling out like leaves blown off a tree. Emily glanced down to see her daughter's face pale, worry woven with terror. "We can't stop. We have to see what's inside," she pushed, bile rising in her throat. Was it genuine hope urging her, or the unrelenting terror of those shadows? As they approached the door, the whispers crescendoed, stripping away her resolve. The locked door bounced with a violent rhythm, as if something within pounded against it, desperate to break free. "Emily," a voice croaked, a rasp of desperation. It was familiar, unmistakably human. Terror swelled in her chest. "Dad?" she breathed, disbelief mingling with dread. "Do not open it." Another shadow warned, inching closer, its hollow eyes glowing with a darkness that felt like a shroud. "He is not who you think he is." The fear coiled tighter, suffocating. The pounding intensified, each wall shivering, as if the very world was alive, pleading for them to escape this nightmare. But the voice from within called again, now softer, more inviting. "Emily, help me. It's your only chance." "Do we trust it?" Lily cried, squeezing Emily's hand like a lifeline. "I don't know," Emily stammered, the decision weighing heavily on her mind. Was this the truth they were seeking, or a trap crafted by the shadows? A shadow darted forward, its hand reaching for the door. Emily's instincts roared to life. "No!" she shouted, pulling Lily back just as the door creaked open. A blinding light spilled forth, illuminating the darkness, but with it came the echo of souls separated, whispers drowning in chaos. What stood behind the door? A savior, or their undoing? The luminous glow flickered as Emily and Lily staggered backward, grappling with the impending storm of choices and fears. The shadows shrieked, an eerie chant rising like a tide. The light dimmed, but deep within its glow lingered the promise of dread and revelation. How far would they fall into the truth before it consumed them completely? The bright light enveloped them, blinding and surreal, contrasting sharply with the oppressive darkness that had cradled them before. Emily felt Lily's grip tighten, warmth amidst the cold dread that threatened to consume them. But the light was a false comfort, a deceptive facade that felt as if it were bleeding shadows of its own, stretching and coiling in the periphery. "Emily." The voice from behind the door was now stronger, pulling at threads of memory long buried. "Please." The even pitch of it echoed, reverberating off unseen walls. A sense of urgency filled Emily, a whispering tug of longing amidst her desperate instincts to flee. "No!" she screamed again, but doubt crackled in her veins. Was this truly her father? The shadows shrieked louder, hollering their warnings, their caverns of sorrow resonating through every crack and crevice. "He's not yours. He belongs to the dark." Emily felt the ground shift beneath her feet, the reality bending as the whispers grew in speed and ferocity. She yanked Lily closer, hearing her daughter's rapid breaths, each one quick and shallow. Panic rose, clenching like a vice around her chest. "Close your eyes," she ordered, pushing against the instinct to look back. They had no idea what lay in the light, but the shadows were growing more violent, lashes of darkness snapping like whips, seeking to sever them from their resolve. "Mom, I don't want to," Lily whimpered, but Emily pressed forward, her heart pounding in a frantic rhythm. "We have to go. Trust me." With every step, Emily felt the light pulse, a heartbeat of its own, luring them into its embrace while shadows clawed through the air behind. The solid glow whispered, promises of sanctuary, but she couldn't shake the fear that it could just as easily be a trap. Instincts sharpened, Emily pushed through, pulling Lily into the blinding warmth. Almost instantaneously, the cold shadows waned behind them, but the light, it wasn't just light. It glimmered like a veil between realms. "Emily!" The voice now shook the very fabric of the cavern. "You must choose before they come." The air thickened and silence fell, a deafening stillness that pressed against their ears. Was it fear or an illusion? Emily's heart raced wildly, each pounding beat driving the dread deeper into her core. The light flickered again, and she hesitated, the turmoil boiling within. Should she trust it? Suddenly, shadows lunged, not retreating, but swirling with renewed fervor, grabbing at the hem of Emily's jeans. They wouldn't let go. In a split second, a piercing scream tore through her thoughts. "Lily!" Emily's breath caught in her throat. She turned, the racing world spinning into chaos again. Lily was gone, swallowed whole by the darkness. "Lily!" The light trembled, its glow shrinking as the shadows surged forth, now alive and chaotic. Emily was yanked backward, the cold rush of fear swallowing her whole. "Mom!" Lily's voice flickered somewhere in the dark, terrified and lost. "Hold on, I'm coming!" Emily shouted, but she could barely see now. The glow, their only guide, dimmed further. Clawing against the shadows that gripped her, she fought, heart thundering. The air grew heavy, the chilling breath of despair wrapping tight around her throat, squeezing out hope. But somewhere, deep within that darkness, the voice called again, softer, almost mournful. "Help me, it's your only chance." As Emily's hand reached into the void, she felt a cold grasp wrap around her wrist. Eyes wide with horror, she was drawn further into the depths, the scream of shadows echoing as they reached for her past, for the truth hidden within. What lay ahead, waiting to ensnare them both? Would she discover a way to save Lily, or was this destined to be their end? And somewhere behind her, a door slammed shut, sealing off escape. The shadows writhed, coiling around Emily like serpents hungry for flesh. The cold grip on her wrist tightened, pulling her deeper into the abyss. "Lily!" she shouted again, her voice barely a whisper against the mounting dark. Panic surged in her chest as if a chasm opened beneath her, threatening to swallow her whole. The darkness around her pulsed, heavy and alive. It throbbed with a heartbeat that matched her own, a sinister rhythm urging her to succumb. The distant sound of Lily's voice, fractured and echoing, pulled her forward. "Mommy, help!" "Stay with me!" Emily screamed, determination surging through her veins. She jerked her arm, breaking the cold grasp momentarily. The light shimmered, teasingly close, but it felt like an untrustworthy companion, flickering just out of reach. More shadows twisted around her, sharp edges gnashing like teeth, whispering tales of despair and doom. Join him! Join him! Them! It's too late for her! They hissed, mingling with the cries echoing in the void. Emily shut her eyes, breathing through the urge to panic. No, I won't lose her! Not again! She felt something stir in her chest, a flicker of warmth she couldn't let die. Gripping the threads of her courage, she spun toward the sound of Lily's voice, forcing her legs to move despite the agony pulsing in her heart, a primal need to protect. Each step felt like wading through tar, the shadows trying to pull her back, but determination hardened her resolve. "I'm coming, Lily!" she yelled, cutting through the din of sorrow. Beyond the darkness, she saw a flicker, a shape dancing in the light. It looked like Lily, standing there, frozen, surrounded by flickering shadows. "Mom?" Her daughter's voice sounded far away, frantic and terrified. "Lily, I'm right here!" Emily rushed forward, but just as she reached for her, the shadows surged, enveloping her in a chilling embrace. She cried out again, a mixture of fear and desperation, as the void engulfed her senses. Then a voice like ice crackled nearby, deep and resonant. "You are tethered to darkness, Emily. You cannot save her." "Shut up!" she snapped back, but the words felt weak, like a paper shield against the storm. It hung ominously in the air, pulling her attention toward the monstrous truth clawing at her sanity. Fears from her past, grief from her history, the echoes of her life swirling through the blackness like a twisted reminder. "Mom, please!" Lily's voice broke again, this time laced with horror. It drove another spike of agony through Emily's heart. The flicker in the shadows seemed to dim, with a coldness that threatened to consume all hope. Emily kicked and fought against the dark tendrils, feeling them slide over her skin like ice. "I won't let you take her!" she shouted, and in that moment a sudden rage exploded within her. She extended her hand, palm flat toward the light. "Get away from her! You don't own us!" Light surged through her limbs, breaking the hold of the shadows, illuminating the faces of twisted figures that recoiled momentarily with shrieks of pain. She felt the darkness retreat slightly, but not for long. "Time is short," the deeper voice droned. "You cannot hold them back forever." Desperation coursed through Emily as she lunged toward Lily, their fingers brushing at last. "I have you! I won't let go!" But just as she made contact, the light flickered again, growing faint. The shadows lunged deeper, hungry for the bond they shared, dark tendrils snaking around both of them. "Mom!" Lily screamed, her voice piercing. With her heartbeat pounding in her ears, Emily bore down, tugging Lily closer against the chaos. The swirling uproar of despair reached a deafening pitch, threatening to drown them. "Fight!" Emily cried, flooding the space between them with resolve. "We'll fight together!" But somewhere behind the chaos lay the ominous chant, the shadows beckoning them. To surrender, promising what they could never have. Peace. Let go. Join him. And just as Emily felt the grip of shadows begin to loosen, she caught a glimpse of a face in the darkness, a face that was too familiar. An old ache, a memory too painful to bear. Was it her father? The light flickered one last time before plunging them back into silence. What awaited them in that deep, haunting night? Would they find salvation, or had they already lost everything? The silence was suffocating, wrapping around Emily like a shroud. She had expected the familiar warmth of her daughter, the comfort of their bond, but instead, darkness descended, stripping everything away. Lily's hand felt like a fading echo, slipping through Emily's grasp. "Emily." The icy voice returned, a whisper lingering just about her ear. "Do you see? The light is an illusion. Your heart is chained to despair. She clenched her teeth, forcing back her fear. The shadows shifted, as if drawn by her stubbornness, writhing and tightening like a noose. "I won't give in!" she shouted, her voice cracking. Yet with every desperate declaration, more figures materialized, their faces contorted into grotesque mockeries of hope. "Join us! Let darkness claim you!" they chanted, their voices merging, creating a haunting symphony that sent needles of ice through her veins. Emily shut her eyes, blocking out the horrified faces. She imagined Lily, her laughter dancing on the wind, the warmth of her embrace breaking the frigid spell. "Lily!" she cried again, feeling a sliver of hope ignite. But the shadows answered, a dark ripple soaking up her joy. "She's gone, Emily. You've lost her." They droned as they loomed closer, their breath icy against her skin. "No!" Emily roared, summoning her last reserves of strength. She could not falter now. It was one thing to face the desperation. It was another to let it drown the last flicker of light within her. "I'm coming for you, Lily." With every ounce of will, she pushed through, feelers of darkness retreating as her voice resonated. The chilling air became electric, crackling with tension as energy surged through her. But the grasp of shadows tightened once more, this time not merely pulling her towards the darkness, but dragging at her sanity. "Emily!" The sound of her daughter's voice was like a lifeline splashed against the dark waters. It fueled her resolve, igniting her heart. "Mommy, please, I'm scared." "Hold on, Lily, I'm almost there." She fought against the suffocating weight of despair, every inch forward feeling like a mountain to climb. Then, in a sudden rush, she saw a flicker, a bright figure emerging through the haze of shadow, a glimmering specter of hope. Lily's familiar silhouette stood against the swelling chaos, her face framed by the soft glow of light. But the shadows beckoned, and the girl wavered, caught between Emily's heart and the abyss that longed to claim them both. "Don't let them take you!" Emily cried, her voice strained with desperation. She reached out again, pushing against the tangible darkness enveloping her. "Mommy, I don't want to go! I can't hold on!" Lily wailed, her frame choking on the darkness threatening to engulf her. Flashes of painful memories surged in Emily's mind, the night her father had left, her mother's despair. Each torment played on loop, taunting her resolve. "No!" she screamed, tears stinging her eyes. "You are not my past. You are my future. Fight with me." The shadows screeched, thrashing violently, their hold beginning to shake as Emily's force of will ignited a fiery light around them. For a second, a flicker beyond the darkness hinted at salvation, a past cured of grief and guilt threatening to come undone. But with a sudden jolt, darkness converged and swallowed the shimmer of light, dragging them back into cold oblivion. The figures in the void lunged, their cries mingling with the chaos of Emily's racing heart. As reality twisted, she felt herself begin to slip away, pulled into an unforgiving current of despair. One final glance revealed Lily's terrified eyes meeting hers, and Emily screamed as she fought against tethering despair. "Fight! Please! Hold on!" The darkness shrieked louder, as if furious that their prey was resisting, retaliating with a storm of shadows that threatened to drown her whole world. "Emily!" came the haunting whisper again, but this time it was joined by the sound of many voices, each chanting her name, circling closer and closer, clawing at her sanity. As the pit of despair yawned wide, Emily felt something snap deep inside. Was it the light fading or hope giving way? "Mom! Mommy!" Lily cried from the edge of the darkness, her voice breaking through the chaos just long enough for Emily to seize hold. In that moment of desperation, among the shadows and the madness, the chilling realization dawned. To bridge the gap, she might have to confront a deeper darkness, one buried deep within her own soul. What would she unleash in that confrontation? Would she save her daughter, or would she become the very thing she feared? Emily's breath quickened, panic clawing its way through her chest. The shadows pulsed with a life of their own, twisting and coiling around her like venomous snakes. "What do I have to do?" she whispered, desperation thick in her voice. "Face yourself," the icy voice of the shadows echoed back, reverberating through the claustrophobic air. "Face the truth you hide. Only then can you save her." Face herself? The thought staggered her. Memories she locked away in trepidation flickered behind her eyes. The guilty whispers of her past crept into her mind. Her failures, the mistakes that haunted her. The moments when she was supposed to protect Lily, but faltered. "Mommy," Lily's voice trembled, a thin thread of fear lacing every syllable. "Please, don't go." The shadows shrieked in chorus, urging her to take the path of least resistance, to succumb to the despair they offered. Images of her father's departure flooded her. How he'd walked away, leaving her alone in a storm of grief. She had promised herself she'd never let someone she loved slip away again, yet here she was, standing at the precipice of losing her daughter to the ghastly void. "Take her hand and fall into despair," the shadows crooned, their voices a seductive melody. "No!" Emily shouted, fury igniting within. As her heart raced, she pushed against the mounting darkness. The swirling void threatened to engulf her whole. She forced herself to breathe, feeling the cold air against her skin as it sparked something dormant inside her, a faraway flicker of defiance. "Lily needs me!" she shouted, bracing herself against the torrent of darkness that surged closer, seeking to snuff out her light. "I won't let you pull me under." Each mention of her daughter's name sent vibrations coursing through her bones. More lights flickered within the shadows, growing brighter as she unleashed her voice, pulling forth a swell of memories intertwined with Lily. The day they danced in the rain, their laughter echoing through the stormy skies. The moment they stargazed, her daughter pointing out constellations as Emily taught her about hope in dreams. The shadows faltered, recoiling from the warmth of her memories, but it was fleeting. The darkness snarled around her, closing in like a wolf pack, ravenous for her surrender. "Face what you fear," a chorus of voices cried, erupting from the shadows. "You cannot hide from your own darkness." Emily's heart raced. She could feel the weight of 1,000 eyes on her, dissecting her very soul. "Face myself," she murmured to herself, the truth washing over her. "I can't save Lily if I'm afraid of who I am." With that, she shut her eyes and turned inward. She envisioned herself in a dark room, where echoes of her past twisted and writhed. Each regret was a shadow with a name: shame, betrayal, weakness. She let them wash over her, the fabric of her being trembling under their touch. "Tell me why you haunt me," she shouted into the void, tears streaming down her face. The shadows froze, hushed by the rawness of her plea. "Because you won't acknowledge us," they shrieked, voices jagged and sharp. "You bury your truth deep, but we are here, waiting." The air stilled, and for a brief moment Emily felt a warmth wash over her, a flicker of light illuminating the terrifying corners of her soul. She was ready to confront the ugliness. "Lily!" she called out as her focus shifted back to her daughter, realizing she could not only save her, but also reclaim her own shattered spirit. "I'm here! I will fight this!" A silence fell. Shadow simmered in the stillness, all eyes keenly fixed on her. The silence felt fragile, an ominous calm before the storm. Emily's heart thundered, and she feared what would come next. But before she could prepare herself, a rush of chaos exploded from the shadows, tearing at her sanity once more. "You think you can hold on to that light?" they hissed. "You think you can break free?" With a renewed heart, she stood, refusing to be consumed by their grasp. But the air thickened, and Emily felt the weight of 1,000 chains forming around her limbs. It was so much harder now, the fear biting at her resolve. Struggling against their overlord grip, she understood. To win this battle, she would have to uncover what lay beneath all the darkness, the root of her pain. "Help me, Lily! I'm coming!" she screamed as she felt the shadows pulling her down, a monstrous tide that wanted to drown everything she blessed with meaning. Would she shatter the darkness within, or would it consume her whole? Would her daughter still be waiting when everything burst into chaos? The shadows encroached, a nightmarish tide, and Emily could hear the voices of the past, her past, filling the air with their dreadful whispers. "This is just the beginning," they taunted, as the abyss stretched wide, ready to swallow her whole. And in that ominous moment, the question loomed large. Could she truly face her own darkness, or would she be lost forever, entwined in the very despair she fought to escape? The darkness surged, pulling at her with icy fingers, threatening to drag her into the depths of despair. Emily felt panic constrict her throat. The shadows loomed larger, darker, more menacing. Every breath she took felt like a razor against her lungs as she willed herself to stand firm. They were manipulating her, clawing at her insecurities, her guilt. "Lily, hold on!" she cried, but her voice was nearly swallowed by the monstrous cacophony of the shadows, shrill and savage. Images of her daughter flickered before her eyes, so vividly painted against the black. Lily's small hand, reaching out, caught in a neck of darkness, struggling against its weight. "Let her go!" Emily screamed, heart pounding. She took a step forward, the shadows shifting, hissing in response. Their wraith-like tendrils lashed out, threatening to ensnare her. But Emily didn't retreat. She could feel the memories, bitter-sweet, surge beneath her skin. The sound of Lily's laughter, the comfort of her soft hugs, the way she made everything feel whole. The light within never fade. A ripple went through the shadows, as if disturbed by her resolve. Could she really harness that light? "Face your demons!" they screeched, a chorus of shrieks that clawed at her sanity. They seemed to feed on her fear, growing more agitated with her defiance. Emily clenched her fists, battling the urge to yield. "I know the darkness! I know you!" she yelled, ripping a tear in the miasma of despair. "You're not the end. You're part of me." The shadows hissed, recoiling as if burned by her words. It was now or never. Emily closed her eyes once more, reaching into the dark chambers of her mind. Memories poured in like a torrential flood. The moments of failure flashed like snapshots on a screen. The heartbreak, near, an embodiment of all her fears, the failures, regrets, insecurities. But she couldn't let them win, not when Lily's life hung in the balance. "I am not you!" she shouted, her voice resonating against the dark. It felt like striking a match in a cave. For a brief moment, the shadows sputtered and fell back, as if they were frightened of her light. "Foolish woman," the reflection hissed, its voice a low growl. "You think you can escape me? I'm not just your fears. I am every doubt in your mind." "Then let's finish this!" Emily shouted back, feeling strength coursing through her as memories raced forward in her mind. The warmth of her daughter's laughter, the triumph when they first baked cookies together, the time Lily healed a scrape with a single kiss, her tiny hands so full of magic. "I choose love!" she cried, and as the words spilled from her lips, they ignited a light that blazed forth like the sun. The darkness shrieked, twisting violently, a storm trying to resist the rising dawn. "Lily!" she screamed. "Hold on, baby, I'm coming!" The shadows howled, grasping at Emily, but she pushed through, determined. The warmth of her memories flooded her heart, brightening every dark corner of her being. "You don't control me! You're a part of me, but you don't define me!" With every beat of her heart, a dazzling light blossomed outward, scattering the shadows. Emily forced herself to look into the face of darkness hovering before her, into the eyes that mirrored her own. And she saw what lay beneath, the pain of loss, the scars of abandonment. And she understood. "I forgive you," she whispered, finally finding compassion not just for her daughter, but for herself. "You were trying to protect me, but I don't need you anymore. I am stronger." With that, the luminous glow swelled, consuming the oppressive darkness. The reflection of her fears dissolved into wisps of shadow, scattering into the air like smoke. The anguished cries faded, replaced with the harmonious song of freedom. "Lily!" she cried again, and finally there she was, a glimmering figure appearing in the distance, bright as the sun. Emily reached forward, not wanting to lose her again. They had to unite and escape together. "Mommy!" Lily's voice was warm and pure, cutting through the remnants of gloom. Their fingers curled together, and in that instant, Emily felt the world shift. The shadows spun wildly, but the encroaching light pushed them back, dissolving the darkness that threatened to swallow them whole. Together, they charged forward, breaking free from the clutches of despair. The air crackled with electricity, and a path formed before them, leading into blinding brightness. "Keep going!" Emily shouted, feeling the surge of hope coiling around her. They ran, the shadows shrieking behind them, but they grew distant, like echoes fading in the vastness of light. And then they burst into a warm glow, an expansive field filled with vibrant colors and laughter. They tumbled into a meadow drenched in sunlight, rolling onto soft grass, panting and breathless. "Mom!" Lily gasped, eyes shining with joy. "Together! We did it!" Emily breathed a sigh of relief, feeling free for the first time in what felt like forever. Emily pulled her daughter into a tight hug, tears streaming down her cheeks. The past had been achingly painful, but they stood at a new beginning, the weight of darkness lifting forever. As they looked up at the sky, bright and limitless, Emily could finally envision their future, filled with love, laughter, and light. No more shadows, no more fear. "We can face anything together," she said, pulling Lily close. "Always, Mommy," Lily smiled. And in that moment, Emily knew the fight would never be in vain. They would rise against anything life threw their way, bound by an unbreakable love. And hidden within that love was a flicker of shared strength, a courageous flame that would shine through even the darkest of nights. As they embraced the warmth of a new dawn, Emily smiled, the haunting house nothing more than a memory. It was time to step into the light, to live the life they were always meant to have. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support because it really helps us. Flood the comments section with all of your reactions and theories about this intense ending. And jump to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how it all wraps up. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel.